sponsor of the legislation that created the Women's Health Program in Texas. So please join me in welcoming State Representative Dawnna Dukes.
Well, good afternoon. You know, I spent a lot of time in that Capitol building with a whole lot of testosterone. It feels good to be around some estrogen. Well, I would say that I bring you great greetings, but it is not great greetings for the reason that we are here. We are here for a very serious reason, because of the politics being played under the Capitol Dome with women's health care. Now, last month, in the month of February, I usually get a lot of requests to speak during Black History Month. And I was honored to be requested to speak at my church, because Black History Month was about the contribution of women, of African American women, to history. So I thought that I was honored to be requested to speak at the church where my great-grandmother was the founder. The church where I was baptized, where I made my Holy Communion, where I made my confirmation. I was very pleased, very honored to be knowing that I would be going to the church from which my grandparents were buried, and my brother and every loved one in my family had their wedding, until I received a phone call. I received a phone call a few weeks before I was to go and speak at the church, and I was told that I couldn't come and speak because the church did not want to seem as though they were supporting one candidate over another. I paused. I said, but I'm unopposed. They said, let me get back with you. And they did. A few weeks later, they did get back to me to make an apology. And the apology was stated was that they were so very sorry that I would not be allowed to speak in the Catholic Church at any given time, because they checked not only at the diocese here in Austin, but they went up to the Archdiocese and to the U.S. Congress of Bishops, who said that on my website that I stated I supported the women's health program in Texas. So therefore, the church that my grandmother founded, the church where I was baptized, the church where my parents were married, the church where all my family attended, will not allow me to speak in church because I support contraceptives. Well, it reminds me of a very talented young lady who at one point in time was bothered by something that a Texan said. So, I agree with Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks. And because I started out talking about the church, I won't use any words that you don't read in the Bible. But I'm not ready to make nice. I'm not ready to back down. I'm mad as hell, and I have not the time to go round and round and round. And neither do Texas women. We should be burning mad that the far right would go to my church and try to dictate what we can do. We should be far mad that they try to take away the rights that we have had, and the argument has been over for a very long time, to have the right to choose. We should be mad. Are you mad? Are you ready to go round and round and round to let them know that we won't take this? Women's health care is being tossed around like a football. We're being treated like little raggedy dolls as they stand up there and they tell their various stories about why they shouldn't fund our programs. Well, let me tell you something about the Women's Health Care Program. If they're so interested in ensuring that a woman never has to have an abortion, then support this program, because you're only eligible. ensuring wellness and prevention. And we all know that an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And if you want to be fiscally conservative, then you would support a program that your own conservative gurus in the Legislative Budget Board stated in their 2011 report was the most cost-effective program in Texas. Not only did the Legislative Budget Board state that the program was cost-effective, saving the state greater than $41 million a year, but the LBB said the program should be expanded to include more women. Because fewer women who are uninsured that end up going to a primary care, preventative care program to detect cancer at the beginning, to detect breast cancer and cervical cancer, to detect diabetes, as we've already heard about, to be able to detect STDs, as well as to be able to get birth control, reduces the cost of Medicaid that they underfunded by $4 billion. This is a program in which the federal government matches 90-1. Constantly we hear Rick Perry going around talking about Washington needs to give us our money. Well, he only thinks that on the highway, but he doesn't think it when it comes to your health care or my health care. We talk about the 130,000 women who will lose access to health care because of the Women's Health Program. A program that, Peggy, you remember, was started in 2007 under George W. Bush, and the rules haven't changed under Obama. So don't blame Barack. Blame your stupid recommendations under the Capitol dome. There was one amendment placed in the appropriations bill by Representative Ray Christian, you know, from way out in Vidal, Texas, and also by Warren Chisholm from up in the Panhandle. When we brought the appropriations bill out of committee, we had $99.7 million in the strategies to fund family planning. When it came off of the House floor, it had been reduced by $61.7 million, eliminating the network that the Women's Health Program required us to have in order to be able to provide services and offset the cost of Medicaid. Now, if you have a program that's paying 9-1 from the feds to the state, versus if you have no program, LBB has already estimated that Medicaid births will go up $231 million, and the state has to pay 60%. That's not very fiscally conservative, do you think? Well, I think it's time that we continue to tell this governor, don't mess with Texas women. Don't mess with our health care. And there's no better way to tell him and everybody who voted for these measures that in November, I'm not going to forget. I'm not going to make nice because I'm mad as hell. And we'll go round and round and round about this. And in closing, I just want to say, Allison, I really like your shoes. Please present your resume to my office.